Ready to call the meeting to order?
We're here, they're here. Do it.
Okay, calling the meeting to order at 7:30, 7:31 it looks like. And let's see, so who are we?
Listening to the town of Wood.
Yeah, and just so we've got our regular, so we don't have to seat anyone, right? Although, so
Spencer's a regular member.
Spencer, yeah, so we have to seat one of you. So seat Arlene, since we seated you fairly recently, right? Okay. So our first item of business is Town of Woodbridge for the carport for the police department. Want to state your name, sign in.
Hi. Good evening. Frank Papiel, Chief of Police.
Brian Humes, Kempinski Humes Architect.
And we're here, obviously, for the proposed carport
Okay.
seeking variance. That's the
Brian Humes, Kempinski Humes Architects. I think I'm going to be presenting for the applicant being the town of Woodbridge, through the Woodbridge Police Department. We've been hired to assist the police department in putting two carports on the parking lot area of the police department. I think I'll give you a little bit of background on these carports and a little bit of background on the police department. We started with Woodbridge about 10 years ago looking at the needs of the police department. And through that needs assessment, we studied both the base needs and the site needs of the Woodbridge Police Department. Based on that study, we have done an evaluation of the center building and the existing police department and have determined and put in place schematic designs that renovate the building for a 20-plus year solution for the police department. But I think it's pertinent to point that out because there's a plan that the police department is going to stay at this location for the foreseeable future. Police department's not looking to move within that time span. They can accommodate space that's available in the center building in addition to renovating space in their existing space. So there is a long-term plan to renovate for the police department, but that renovation would be renovating this building for a 20-plus year solution. This is a long-term solution that the police department and the town is looking to put in place. In 2012, I believe, the town of Woodbridge received a $500,000 STEEP grant. And part of that STEEP grant was put toward the radio tower that was just erected in the back of the police department. And they have some funds that are remaining from the state grant. So we were given a program of carports and utilizing the funding that's still left in place from the grant. The town is looking to utilize those funds to put up a carport. And you might wonder why a carport. We specialize in public safety facility design, and a lot of our clients are police departments throughout New England. And a common request for police departments now in this day and age are carports. Carports is an economical way to shelter fleet vehicles. And the police department in Woodbridge is no different than neighboring communities that are trying to get fleet vehicles undercover for a number of reasons. Primary reason that carports come in handy for police departments is winter conditions. The cruisers return to this location during shift change, and during that time of shift change, it's important that the vehicles stay free of ice and snow and inclement weather. So when the shift changes and vehicles are then put back on the street, there's a quicker response time to get vehicles back out. Anything responding from the police department is usually in a shift change. So we're trying to keep the fleet vehicles free of snow and ice, or any vehicles that need to respond from the department would be free of snow and ice so they can have a quick response time. That traditionally has been why carports have been requested. But now, in 2018, the police departments are also putting a lot of electronics into their vehicles. The electronics in the vehicles are required to have a certain cabin temperature in the vehicle. But during the summertime, when the vehicles are brought back, this fleet vehicles are brought back to this location, the windows have to be up and the vehicles are turned off. So the cabin temperatures in the summer sun can start to elevate beyond the electronic capacity of what's within the vehicle. So carports have been, in addition to winter needs, they definitely have now a summertime need to provide shelter for the vehicles. So this is where we've come in. The police department has requested that we get 16 cars under shelter for both summertime, wintertime shelter need. The reason that we're at ZBA is the proposed location of the carports places us within the front yard setbacks on Center Road. I don't know if you have the typed hardship letter, and I don't have to go through all of that in detail. You have it. I'm sure you're able to go through that. I wanted to give you some of the historical reasons why we're here for carports, why carports are important, and what have we done to look at any other alternative locations to satisfy this need for a carport or carports. What we're trying to do is use the funding that we have available and try to meet the needs of the police department's request for 16 vehicles. We're utilizing this area and this area for proposing 2 carports. Right now, this is all paved area. We're not expanding any of the paved surfaces that are at the rear of the police department. And as it says, one of our hardships is that we don't have a rear yard. Because this property is bounded by 3 streets, this property in a pre-existing condition has 3 front yard setbacks to it. So that's creating a hardship for us in doing anything in this existing parking lot. We're trying to utilize the existing parking lot just because we don't have any area to really expand that parking lot. The area to the left is the band shell and the green area. We didn't want to infringe or impose on that green space. And the rest of the area to the right is parking, but it's parking for library and parking for other uses. It's not police department parking. So we have a hardship where we're limited to existing space. The carport to the left, which is I've just drawn in blue, carport to the left is the closest one to the existing building. This black line is showing the rear building of the police department. This area here is their Sallyport entrance. And the Sallyport entrance they utilize for vehicles coming in with anybody who's detained. And they would be able to drive into the building, close that garage door, and then safely transport anybody out of the cruiser. They also use it if they need it for any other storage or any other short-term use for a cruiser. But that's an access road to this Sallyport entrance. These spaces, which are 4 spaces to the left of that Sallyport entrance, those 4 spaces are existing. So we are not expanding pavement. We're trying to use the pavement that's there in a way to shelter 4 vehicles. And that shelter for 4 vehicles is the closest location we have to the back entrance of the police department, which is located here. So we're utilizing their existing circulation patterns for cars and their existing circulation patterns for staff entrance into the building. But this gives us 4. The request from the police department was 16. In this area of the lot, because it's a double loaded situation, right now in this area of the lot, they currently have 14 parking spaces designated at that location. We're going to go from a 14 space designation to a 12 space designation. Right now, those spaces are 9 feet wide. We're going to increase those spaces to 10 feet wide because at 10 feet wide, it's the preferred width for cruisers when they're coming in and during shift change. Their doors are going to be opening and closing simultaneously. They're all out there at the same time. So that width from 9 foot wide parking stall to 10 foot wide is a real preference. We're taking the same area and creating a 12 car carport at that location of existing paving. So we looked at other options. Other options would be this back row. That back row, we also need areas on this parking lot for staff vehicles. So we're trying to get the carports located closest to the staff entry for cruiser use and reserve this area for staff use. Staff still has to come on the site and the staff have to park before they then could utilize the cruisers. So if we utilize this far row for a carport, we'd still be in a variance condition. And then staff parking would be in the front of the cruiser parking, which would be here. And that didn't really make much sense. We looked at anything up against the existing building. Well, we have another access here for another overhead door, which they use for storage. We have the radio tower, which was just constructed. And then there's a small shelter, which is right next to the tower. The width of the building doesn't give us enough capacity. And we've also, the grade comes up to the building there, and that foundation wall is burned. So in order to get topography down at the parking lot elevation, we'd have to excavate that berm and then increase paving, and it still didn't give us capacity. So it gets down to what can we do to satisfy the program, given the hardships that we have at the existing property, and this seems to be the most viable option. The police department has seen this proposal. They're in favor of it. Earlier, I made this similar presentation to the Board of Selectmen before it was referred to Planning and Zoning and referred to ZBA. I made this presentation to the Board of Selectmen, who initiated the idea, and they were also in favor of it. And the direction of the police department was to proceed through Planning and Zoning, through ZBA, to get this constructed. I have a picture. The picture is not of this condition, but the picture is of a similar carport. So I can pass these around. So this shows a column support, a steel package, a fascia panel, and the fascia panel comes in different colors, but there's not a lot of other options as far as the way these packages are constructed. We bid these out as far as a furnish engineer and build to a contractor. So even if we were to put this out to bid, we can't guarantee, because it's a municipal bid, we can't guarantee the manufacturer that's going to be submitted, but we can set a performance criteria, and then public bidding has to allow equal manufacturers if they meet the specifications to construct their product. We're open to questions.
I'm just curious as to why there's columns. If you want to protect from snow, isn't the wind going to blow the snow in? Why are we
It's
not
an open
putting
side.
Sides on it.
An open side, it's not an enclosed structure. The carport is provide the shelter for the vehicle, so sheltering is what we're trying to do. But we're not needing any closed sides. It's not a garage we're building here. It's an open structure just to provide cover to the top. And that provides the winter protection and the shading in the summertime.
See how it provides the shading in the summertime, but in the wintertime, when, the snow blows, I don't see how that's going to help without any sides.
These have been very effective. Versus not having them, it's the snow that's
Versus
falling
Yeah, but as long as you're doing it.
that protects the cruiser.
That would be my
I think you'll find that because it's proximity to the building, it's kind of in a protected area. So that I don't believe that it's going to be. It's not going to be like inside a building. I mean, it's going to be exposed to weather. There'll be some snow drift. Sure.
Right, well, they're still going to have to push off the cars.
Oh, sure.
Okay, well,
But they may need a brush and not a shovel.
Right.
Be nice to not need anything.
I mean, would it make a difference, Eric, if the sides are not? No. From our perspective.
From a zoning perspective, it's a structure.
Right.
So whether or not it's sides or not, I don't know that.
Right.
We should be fairly neutral about that, I would think.
Are there any kind of sides that could be semi-permanent so that they could raise and lower or something? Or I don't know, that would maybe in the wintertime when there is a big snow predicted, they could do that because it is a safety issue for the town.
I don't know the answer to that question. However, we did build one of these, as you may know, when we did our public works building, and we're having some good experiences with that in terms of the ability for it to keep things both out of the sun and out of the snow. So
The clear height on this is 9 feet. So it's not what you typically see at a garage, at a gas station. Those are 14 feet high. So we're not talking about something that's 14 foot that you can drive a truck through or get some large vehicles through. The clearance on this is just 9 feet. It's lower to the ground than what you typically see from a gas station canopy or anything like that. That lower to the ground actually brings it down below the fascia height of the building. So it's not a structure that's going to be elevated above the roof of the existing building. It's going to be lower than the roof of the existing building. And because it's only 9 foot clear, and your vehicle is only about 6 feet, it doesn't give the ability for that snow to really accumulate. These typically the fleet vehicles would be heading face in. So it would be the trunks to the rear. So that the windshields do stay pretty clear if they're that far inboard of the exterior of the carport. And it is that need for more rapid response. And this gives it enough of that shelter that you can get those cruisers in and out fairly quickly.
Without the size, it'd be less intrusive too. You really wouldn't see it as much driving along.
It's going to look right through it.
That's what I'm saying. It'd be less. You'd see it, but it wouldn't stand out as a nice one.
Just a question. Suppose you did this, the carport, the larger one. If you turned it 90 degrees, would it be less intrusive in terms of the center line and the setbacks?
This dimension gives you the shortest dimension to the street.
Right. If you
So
turned it
when you-
90 degrees and put it parallel to the building,
Well, then I don't have the circulation path around it. The vehicular circulation path is what I'm maintaining. It's there. So I'm not creating any dead ends in that parking lot. The same circulation pattern, which I don't think you want to create any dead ends, because you still have to plow this
No,
lot
I'm not suggesting, if you
Like, take
rotate this 90 degrees,
this way,
right, and then,
and go from here out.
well, it doesn't go not out to the street, but the back end of that. In other words, the side which is closest to the building, if that becomes the long side, yeah,
You're saying go this way.
yeah, exactly. They give the same number of spaces.
But then I've created
They
this
can't
dead
go
end
around.
in here. And I don't have a circular pattern throughout the parking lot. If these fleet vehicles would have to come in here and then back out here, and everything would be funneling this way. With this arrangement, I can have them backing out on both sides. I have the shortest dimension to Center Road, which I think visually, I'm shortening the dimension on Center Road instead of having it longer. So I think visually, this might be a more preferable dimension. I don't think I can still avoid a variance even going in this direction. I'd still be here talking about a variance request. And I believe the shorter dimension to Center Road would be more pleasing.
You're using the existing parking lot footprint, basically.
We are not altering drainage. We are not altering pavement other than to set the columns.
So it seems as if the key, because what we need to consider is the physical hardships. And that the key physical hardship is that you've got essentially 4 front yards. And this is a thing that's come up at various things. Is there anything you can add to that discussion, Terry?
Sure. We're not very far, a short number of feet over a few years ago. This board granted a variance to the volunteer fire department when before they built their new building, they had a critical storage problem, and they wanted to there was lots of trailers, truck bodies that sat on the ground, and they wanted to build a roof structure in between these, holding up this roof structure so they could store even more stuff in that area, and were granted a variance by this board and I believe that was much closer than this. Our new firehouse across the street received a front yard variance because we were trying to keep away from the vast wetlands in the back of the building. It's not uncommon. We've also seen many times what people say that when they're on a corner lot, that 2 front yards is worthy of a variance and a hardship finding. Here there are at least 3. So I think that you certainly have past precedent. You certainly have an articulated hardship. I might add there are other problems with other areas. For example, in what some people call our green, which is adjacent to this building, it's an area that's well used for public assembly. But it also, underneath it, people don't realize are all the old septic systems that handled the center building. It's probably why it's green. We really don't, it's not good poker to have a lot of vehicular activity on top of that, of those septic systems. And that would be the only area that would not require a zoning variance. It would then require the town to create more asphalt, more drainage. It ramps up the project. This is, I think, responsibly utilizes, puts our best foot forward and gets us pretty far down the road for the money that we have to spend.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have one. You mentioned in the first line here that there's going to be future anticipated renovations to the existing facility. How will this impact it? How will these things come together as a coordinated effort?
That's a good question. It kind of touches on what I said in my introduction, that there is a plan that's been drawn to renovate the police department, but that renovation does not include any expansion of the existing footprint. All of the expansion for this space requirements would be expansion into underutilized locations of the center building, not expanding the building in this direction at all. So there was, the plan doesn't include any extension of the building at this location. And these, if we're constructed, those carports would remain in use today and throughout the renovation project. So it would have no impact.
And even some beautification of the building to make it look more interesting?
There's beautification that's being planned for the Center Road elevation, or not Center Road, but the Meeting House Lane elevation on Center, for the Center School.
Other questions from the board? Okay, so,
No, I've answered all my questions.
okay. So, do we have a motion to end the hearing part?
So
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the application as presented to the zoning board of appeals to approve the variance as stated to section 3.1.3.
Any discussion?
Doesn't seem any neighbors who are complaining, so.
They're all the town.
Huh?
It's all town.
Let's call the vote.
Yeah,
Then, okay.
That's what I was doing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want it back?
I need, oh,
When you
yeah.
use these drawings, you don't have to, you could use that.
There's an extra set that you gave us that you can take back. Yeah, you can take those back.
That's why I'm not enthusiastic.
Yeah, right.
Because if you, I don't know, I was thinking, you start rocking the boat.
We'd like to keep them, you're welcome to.
I just need one copy of the picture that was shown in the file.
Request, there's a lot of people
Of the proposed?
Yeah. I just need one. Okay. I got those. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. My concern is this is going to be too small for a lot of people without getting involved with it. They have to get bonded and bond requirements.
There's some small guys.
They're bondable.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you again.
Okay. Our next item is the approval of the minutes. If people had a chance to read the minutes.
Looks good. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So, abstain. Okay. Okay, and let's see. We have the correspondence. Anything to say on the correspondence?
Interesting reading material if you're a zoning person.
Right. And was there correspondence concerning the previous hearing that was, we had,
Yeah, we pushed it off and then they withdrew their application, so that
Right.
was into that.
so it would seem, so was there correspondence that, or there's nothing that it goes
They
in the
withdrew.
minutes? Okay,
They will treat our application.
so in that case, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good job.
That's
What a
that's
team.
excellent.